Hello, my name is Adrian Loss. I'm the programmer for Game Design Studios. The studios are responsible for creating Projecta, the game that we will be presenting to you today.
So this is our development team. I'm Joe, I'm a main programmer, and I'll be talking about our approach and the agile methodology. Adrian, who is also a programmer, he'll be talking about the game and the mechanics. Louise, who is a UI artist and character designer and also a programmer, she will be talking about the character design and the UI design. And Harry, who is a 3D artist, he'll be talking about the environment models and the collectible models. So for a quick summary of our game is a third-person platformer with shooting elements, and the game is based on collecting score nodes and getting to the final portal without dying. It will be based in a computer-generated simulated world filled with Mindbot enemies, which are a focal point for level navigation. Players will have to fend off the virus enemies while navigating through the level, and will be met with different types of platforms with their own unique mechanic. All of this will take place across 3 levels, excluding the tutorial.
I will be walking you through the mechanics now, specifically through the third-person camera, the character controller, the enemy AI, the gun firing, and the collectibles. First up is the third-person camera, which was designed in a way that follows the character in whichever direction they move. However, it has the ability to freeze the character to allow the player to look around whilst the character stands still or is currently moving. This allows the player to still turn around whilst continuing to move forward. The character controller has multiple different functions, such as the camera angle control, the boost directional control, as well as jumping. It is responsible for the player traversing through the levels we designed. Without this, they wouldn't be able to. Then there's the enemy AI, which was created in a way that destroys the player on impact immediately, thus simulating a mine. The enemy will have a trigger sphere when the player enters the range, and the enemy will immediately detect that and become hostile and engage the player. Then there is the gun firing script, which is the weapon script that has been created in a way that would allow full-scale customization of the weapon behavior. So it considers the ammo, so how much is currently available, or how much is the magazine capacity, or the bullet velocity, and the life cycle of the bullet itself, allowing us to simulate any weapon we would like, be it a laser, be it a machine gun, submachine gun, a pistol, or a shotgun, allowing us to customize it fully to an extent where we're actually happy with it. And then we have 3 different types of collectibles available. One is the jump collectible, responsible for increasing the strength of the jump for the player, allowing the player to reach different areas which otherwise would have been inaccessible. The second is the score collectible that allows the player to progress through the levels, and the final collectible is responsible for the player's boost to remain at maximum capacity for a certain amount of time, allowing the player to constantly jump or boost themselves throughout the level.
Hi, I'm Lily Hawkins, and I'll be talking about the style of the game and the UI. To start off, let me introduce you to Project Alpha, the AI that the player will control. She was designed with the inspiration of anime and cartoon shows that focused on exploring the digital world, such as Vocaloid's very own Hatsune Miku, who has had many renditions of her interacting with her master, and the French animation Code Lyoko, which had a big main focus of exploring both the digital world and the internet. And then now we'll move on to the alternative model. The alternative model is our backup in case of any problems with modeling or any problems with animating it. But we wanted something simple and easy to implement, but the players would find charming and would fit into the theme of the game. So after researching simple robot designs, we found a lot of inspiration from Disney's WALL-E, and we created our own box-like little robot on wheels. After creating our quote-unquote project beta, we started to joke about Beta being Projecta's original form, which made us think about including him as an Easter egg, or even making him an initial character model, and you could unlock Projecta's main model after beating the game. However, that is something we are only thinking about at the moment. Now let's move on to the user interface. The design and idea behind it came from many sci-fi games such as Mass Effect and Half-Dead, etc., etc. I wanted to make it look like it was a holographic interface that you would find in those games, like that. However, I also didn't want to overwhelm new players, and so I experimented by creating different layouts and having people try them out and gauge their reactions by how much they liked the layout, how intuitive it was, and in the end came up with these designs which allowed players to just either go into the game, select options, and make sure all the text was clear in the overworld of the game. I also wanted to make sure that the player could leave the game whenever they wanted or go back to any menu that they wanted at any time. So in every menu that I created, I made sure you had three options of whether to go to the main menu, retry the game, or even exit the game completely. This is just so the player doesn't feel like they have to mess about with any controls, have to go through menus beyond menus just to exit a game. It just made for an easier experience. So players didn't have to Alt F4 or Control Alt Delete just to get out of the game. So adding quality of life aspects such as that was easy to implement using a simple layout such as this one.
Hello, my name is Harry, and I was one of the 3D artists for Projecta in both environmental and collectible assets. First, I will speak about the environment. When Projecta was first theorized, we wanted to create a digital world. This had to be reflected in 3D assets that would fill this world, and so we looked to a neon digital object theme similar to the style seen in Tron. This meant black or dark colored objects with bright neon highlights, examples of which can be seen on the screen in concept art. We wanted to place cubes and cuboid objects in high importance, partly due to the ease of creation and partly due to the style that we'd chosen. To follow in with our theme of bright neon, the platforms were color-coded to their purpose. This was to appeal to the existing mental models of our players would possess from a visual standpoint, which I will now speak about in further detail. When deciding upon the visuals of our environment, we took existing mental models into consideration. This is especially seen in the self-deleting platform, with a dangerous red color and a large X to give some indicator. Summarily, the normal platform had green, a color often associated with go and safety, with no special markings. Our bouncy platform was yellow to present an air of high energy to the player, and the marking was a spiral in order to give the impression of a spring. In the interest of creating clean, professional textures for our more complicated platforms such as can be seen on the screen, they were UV mapped using 3ds Max and Photoshop. This also allowed us to mix and match textures on platforms, making them interchangeable, rather than having a separate object for each platform with each texture. With environment concluded, I'll now speak in detail about our collectible assets. The concept for collectibles followed much in similar fashion, a neon theme appealing to users' existing mental models. More collectibles were concepted than implemented, yet in the interest of time, I'll speak only about the implemented ones. As I previously explained, our assets follow a neon theme, which can be seen in the blue coloration. Due to technical difficulties, the appeal of mental models was lost. However, to appeal to the user's mental models, we would have placed a red H on the health chip in the bottom right to convey that it was a healing item. For the other collectible items, we wanted to use isometric frames in a manner of 3D wireframe in order to convey that these items are pieces of data. The former, the score object, is a frame containing a nuclei, whilst the jump boost in the top right contains an upwards pointing arrow in order to convey the direction of up. I've been Harry Golding. I'll now pass you on to Joe to speak about the Agile methodology. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Joe, and today I will be going over the Agile methodology, which is the methodology we use in order to create, plan and execute our final prototype. So the tools we use for this are Scrumwise, Google Docs and Google Sheets. We use Scrumwise as our task board to assign tasks to each team member and also for our sprint plans. We use Google Docs to create our agile plan of action, also our GDD, our test documents, and also our Scrum meetings or group journal. And we use Google Docs for our risk assessment, which I'll go into further detail later. So our documentation includes our agile plan of action, which also includes the milestone goal, which is where we define our overall goal of the game and what we want to achieve. Our user stories, which is a detailed description of the program or game from the user's perspective from start to finish. After creating our user stories, we can then use information from that to create our user requirements, which is exactly the same as user stories, but instead it's a technical description based on it, and we can then, by doing that, we can sort them into tasks. So our documentation also includes our risk assessment, our games design document, our Scrum meetings, our sprint plans, and our testing documents. So our risk assessment, so we take the tasks from the user requirements, which we all both made, and we give them to both programmers or all the programmers in the group to calculate the values. We calculate the priority of the task, so how important it is, the name of the task, so for example, character controller. We then calculate the value of the task. Is it critical, is it significant, or nice to have? If it's a critical task, then that task would preferably like to be completed first. After sorting all of the tasks out, we then ask ourselves a few questions. The completeness, so have I done this task before? The volatility, will this task change at any point during development? The complexity, how hard is a task? And then after answering those 3 questions, we then calculate the risk for said programmer, so we can see which task the programmer is confident in and which task he lacks a bit in. So our Scrum meetings next, we asked 3 very important questions in our meetings. What did you do since the last meeting that helped our development team reach its goal and help complete this week's sprint plan? What will you work on next? And is there any obstacles in my way from preventing me from completing my tasks? We do this to see where everyone in the group is at, so we can discuss what needs to be done for the future and what needs to be done next. And if we have any problems, this is the time to bring it up. Next is our sprint plans. Serves kind of the same purpose as the Scrum meetings. We use it to see what everyone is doing and where everyone is at. In our sprint plans, we give the name of the task. So, for example, main menu controller. We then assign a team member to the task, and then we will calculate how long it will roughly take us to complete the said task. And finally, our testing document. So we take any aspect, any task, any programmer has done. When it's completed, we need to test it, so we give the test document a description. We then type in our expected results, so what we expect from this testing result, and then we calculate the actual result. If it's failed or need attention, we will then communicate with other members of the group to show them why it's failing and how it doesn't work. However, if it's passed, we then send the task on to completed, and then we're able to move on to the next task.
We are Design Studios. We hope that you enjoyed the presentation, and we thank you for your time. Stay safe.